thinking about sanctions. Sanctions are like punishment, right? Punishment given after a crime is committed. And institutions like UN, you are there to avoid this sort of crime. They are not there to punish the crime. That's International Court of Justice is there, right? Your job was to prevent this war and you failed. Hey guys, this is Bishwadeep. You're watching Latest Lead. This Russia-Ukraine war, I've been thinking about this war quite a lot, but I thought I'll take some time before opining on it, because there was a lot of things happening, and of course the primary reaction from the entire world was Russia being the primary aggressor, and it seemed to be true. And of course nobody likes war, and I particularly do not. I'm not in favor of any war. If in 21st century we have to depend on war, then what is the use of institutions like UN or NATO, or what is the use of diplomacy, right? We talk about diplomacy quite a lot. There are so many institutions opened for diplomacy. So if war is still happening, then what is the use of having all this institution running, right? It's a big question on leadership of this organization. It's a big question on leadership of Russia, leadership of Ukraine, leadership of NATO, leadership of US, European Union. It's a big question mark on all of them. There has been a lot of stuff that's happening since the war started, and what was astonishing for me, although I knew it pretty much long back, that I knew the power of Western media and the power of leftist controlled media, but we actually saw that power, true power, in this particular war, where there was entire media blackout, you can say, just one way narrative that was going on, and that's still going on throughout the world. The Russian media was cut off, the social media was cut off. There was one narrative that was going on, and that is on narrative of the Ukraine side, and that is what I didn't like. I think irrespective of who is right and who is wrong, in a free society, in a free world, and especially countries like US, countries like Europe, they talk about open society, free society. When they decide to black out one side of the story and only tell one side of the story, then for a common man it's very difficult to understand what's happening on the ground. And as we know that during a war-like situation, information is very coveted stuff, right? It's priceless, and there's the information warfare propaganda that goes on in any war, right? So doing a blackout of one side and propagating story of one side, I didn't like that part, right? And what actually amazed me is the control the Western media has over a lot of academic minds as well. I was astonished when I saw one of the brilliant academic mind of 21st century, whom I myself follow, Adam Grant, when he came up with an article decorating the Ukrainian president as as a lion, like as a true leader. But if you think about the Ukrainian president, I think if he would have been sensible, and if he would have sat on the table, spoken to the Russian President Putin even before the war, because there were opportunities, I think this war could have been avoided. I think right now this war has devastated Ukraine, and my heart goes out for the common man and common woman of Ukraine. Those innocent people suffered and still suffering. They lost their home. That entire city right now is a war zone, and images coming out right now. We have seen those visuals, it seems like, and we see the horrors of war live on television on 21st century, when we thought it can never happen, with the presence of institutions like UN and EU and NATO and superpowers. But it happened, and it has exposed the weak Western leadership, right? It has happened. And I think one of the things, being a leadership student, this particular episode once again, gave us a lot of learning. I just saw that whether it's Putin or whether it's Zelensky, nobody actually led their country without ego, right? Leadership without ego is so important, and that's why I thought I would just come online and make a video and talk to you guys and just take your opinion. What do you think? I definitely think that not that Zelensky is the villain or Putin is the hero or vice versa. I think both are at wrong ends. Both are wrong. Of course, Russia has their own security concerns, and rightly so, right? Every country, puts their national security first. So I'm with Russia on that side. But then invading a country, waging war on another nation, putting the innocent lives of common man in danger, I'm not with Putin on that. I think diplomacy was a very, very powerful tool that was neglected by both Putin and Zelensky. And I still think that if these two leaders just shed their ego and sit on the table and talk it out, I think just in a matter of hours this war can be stopped, right? I don't think Zelensky needed Western leadership, which any which ways by now the bubble has been bursted. So any which ways I think he got his lesson that whether it's NATO or EU or US, nobody's coming to help him actually, right? They might black out Russian media, they can impose sanctions and all those sort of things, but then thinking about sanctions are like punishment, right? Punishment given after a crime is committed, and institutions like UN, EU are there to avoid this sort of crime. They are not there to punish the crime. That's International Court of Justice is there, right? Your job was to prevent this war, and you failed, right? And now, in the first phase, we see people of Ukraine suffered. In the second phase, we will see people of Russia will suffer with already their, their ruble value has gone down, and inflation is at all-time high. So prices of commodities will go high, and that's not a good news, because those people eventually will also suffer. Europe will also suffer, because if Russia suffers, Europe will also suffer, because they're all connected economically. They are dependent on each other, right? So Russia is a very, very important part there. And of course, increasing oil prices, the entire world will suffer. All in all, I think leadership without ego was missing here. And if Zelensky was sensible or Putin was sensible, if both could have had a chat on table sensibly, I think this could have been avoided. I think India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi did an excellent job by talking to both the leaders, right? He has not spoken to only Putin and neglected Zelensky. He has spoken to Zelensky, he has spoken to Putin, and although he's stayed neutral because of course India has nothing to do with this war, and of course we had our students there, so I think diplomatically it was the right thing to do, but I think he has tried his level best as well. But I think the superpowers, people like China, people like US, France, Europe, UK, they did not play a bigger role in this. I think they did not play any role in this, right? All they're doing is sitting in their room and imposing sanctions. Sanctions are just punishment after the war is over. Sanctions will not help those people who got displaced. Sanctions will actually punish people of Russia and maybe incur a lot of business loss for a lot of corporates, right? Sanctions helps none, right? It might just satisfy once again your ego that you have done something, but actually have not done anything for those Ukrainian people. So it's a very, very disappointing story. It's a very, very disappointing thing that what's happening around the world. I wish and I hope that this war comes to an end, some sense prevail. It's very heartbreaking to see that we have some weak leadership, leading countries around the world. They have so much of ego that they cannot call each other and sort out differences. President Biden did not call Putin. Nobody's calling Putin. I think the French president called him, and PM Modi called him, and I think Israel Prime Minister called him. But apart from those people, hardly anybody called him. Yeah, that's shocking. That's poor leadership at play, and I think we should take a lesson. And this has happened at a world level, but this can also happen at a team level. This can also happen at a country level, right? So we all must learn the mistakes that these leaders have made in this particular war, and we should learn from it. Lead people without your ego, because when you lead with ego, you might win or you might lose. But at the end of the day, your team, your people, your country will always lose. I'll see you guys next time. Take care. Bye-bye.